seen quite a couple of arrests since we arrived here just over an hour ago. I'm going to speak to General Tommy Mtombeni just to give us a little bit more on the numbers and the success of the operation at this point. General, thank you so much for your time. I think I just want to talk about the numbers for now. Have we seen any arrests, and if so, how many and what for?
Thank you very much. Greetings to the viewers at home. We really appreciate for this opportunity. As for now, we know for the fact that we're having suspect ratings within the province 667, of which 149 is gender-based violence. As we are on the second phase, we have 6 arrests for illegal immigrants, 6 for drunken driving. Maybe just this opportunity that we are concerned about the multiple murders in Gauteng, and Wednesday, Zonkas were 3 murders taxi-related, and Thursday, 5 murders taxi-related with 2 attempted murders on the wake of this morning. And then, of course, we have 4 murders within Merimi informal settlement in Soshanguve, with 8 people who are admitted in a hospital. It is a concern. We are appealing to the community that let's work together, because we have put a team together to ensure that we crack up, or we get to know who are involved in these matters. Maybe further than that, these blue light robberies, it is a problem within our highway. We know for the fact that on the 18th we got between Villas and Tuhuk, of which we have arrested 2 people. They tried to engage the police, the technical response team. They acted, and then 1 person was shot at, and another one arrested 2 firearms, the military jamming device, insignia for the police, and the blue lights. Of course, car hijackings is also a problem. We know there's a video circulating where it depicts police involved in assisting the criminals hijacking a G4S security motor vehicle. On that one, we arrested our own, 2 police officers from SAPS and 2 from Gauteng Traffic Police, and the other 2 civilians. I would say we are hard at work in terms of precisely dealing with our own police officials. I'm just giving a strong warning. Anyone who work against us, because this is an inside threat, they will see the mighty of the law. We'll arrest them, because for the past 3 days we had 7 police officials, those who are arrested. When I add with the Gauteng Traffic Police, it's almost 10, of which it is a concern. And the crimes they're involved in is corruption, hijacking of the motor vehicles, to a certain extent involved in drug peddling, or involved in transporting the drugs.
General, thank you so much for your time. That was quite a mouthful from the General. I'm going to move out of shot, or maybe just ask my colleague Sandile to give you a sense of what's currently happening. The roadblock is still active. What we also do know, and what we did currently hear from the General, is him sending out a strong warning for the members of the South African Police Service who engage in criminal activities, and just give criminals a warning to say they're on their feet. Also just reiterating the fact that the police are hard at work, seeing the number of murders that have taken place across the province over the past week or so. And we also do know him saying that almost 10 South African Police Service members have been arrested. I think I'll leave it right there, Oliver, for now, and I'll take it back to you in studio.
LeBron, thank you. Back on the Newsfeed PM, thanks for staying on. Earlier this week, 4 suspects, including 2 police officers, were arrested for their alleged involvement in blue light robberies. Police spokesperson Colonel Dimakatso Nevuwuli confirming that the officers were identified through an investigation and summoned for questioning. For more on this, I'm joined now by Lesiba Tobahale, SAPS Union spokesperson. Lesiba, thank you for coming on this afternoon. It's with unfortunate regularity that we are reading media reports of police in uniform getting involved in criminal activity. So that it begs the question, is there a system in place to be able to identify and root out such bad apples before they make it to the media?
Thank you for having us, Thabo, and greetings to your viewers. It is unfortunate indeed that there are some of those bad elements where you find that some of our members or police officers or law enforcement officers at large, they happen to have been alleged to be involved in criminal activities, and looking at the basis that they are carrying a constitutional mandate, which is to serve and to protect. And it is unfortunate where there are those isolated cases which are relating to the same. And indeed, when you get into the South African Police Services or into the law enforcement fraternity at large, there's an issue that deals with vetting and so on for you to check on the issue of eligibility of yourself, and in terms of a background check which is done on you. And when you happen to be in the service, as we see with cases being reported, then sometimes those unfortunate things, they happen where you find that they happen to be others who get to be tempted, and they find themselves on the wrong side of the law when it is expected of them that they should be upholding the law. It is an unfortunate thing that happens, but that on its own, it should not really cloud, the bigger picture and the bigger numbers of those members who are doing what is expected of them, because they understand the oath that they have taken, and even when temptations comes to them, they continue to resist such, and they continue to represent the constitutional mandate that they have taken. And as we can see that, the prisons themselves, as we speak, they are overflowing, they are overcrowded, clearly because of good and very disciplined law enforcement officers, including the police, are doing what is expected of them, and they are able to resist the temptation when it comes to issues of involvement in criminality.
Now, as you put it, the constitutional requirement is that public officials are held accountable, which then says that there needs to be a thorough explanation as to how do these individuals end up there? Because we would have spoken previously, you and I, on a report on a number. It was amounting to thousands of SAPS officials who have criminal records, right? And some of them bypassed the vetting process. They are there, they are working, and they were able to be brought into the system. So who is to be held liable when such incidents happen, when the systems themselves are able to be bypassed?
An expectation, Thabo, it is clear that everyone who comes into the system itself, they should be, they should indeed, be without any form of reproach, because the type of job that they are carrying, indeed, it really has to make, it really requires them to be without any sort of blame or any sort of anything that could really take them back in this regard. And unfortunately, if that is the case, where there happen to be those isolated cases and some coming into the system to join the police force without, them having any form of being it a criminal record or any background that is not making them to be eligible to be in the South African Police Services, it is also unfortunate, because the system itself, it is being done by human beings. Human beings are the ones who are doing the vetting. Human beings are the ones who are doing everything to really determine whether somebody is eligible or not. Yeah. But unfortunately, in cases like that, clearly management of SAPS, it is them who are administering the issue of recruitment.
So does that mean, let me come in this, does that mean there is no transparency, therefore, in that process? Because they are the ones responsible for administering that. So is there no possibility of these actions to be made visible, to be made predictable, to be made understandable, so that everybody knows what are these processes that they follow to recruit people and bring them in?
Recruitment, it starts with an advert, and one would apply, and then everything that has to do with themselves, their qualifications and so on, they get to be attached. And if they happen to meet the criteria, they go to write psychometric, they do the physicals and background check and stuff like that. They happen to come in. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of role players that are in there in terms of recruitment. And if there happen to be any who happen to come into the system, even though they are not eligible, that is why we are saying it is unfortunate. Then it means that somewhere someone didn't do what is expected of them. But there is also another layer as well that we are speaking of, where one would come into the system, they themselves being without any form of reproach, but inside they then get to be tempted. That's where you see those isolated cases, which indeed we are condemning, and we are saying that they should not cloud the good work that is being done by the majority of the members. And unfortunately, like we have mentioned, it is being done by human beings. They're the ones who are doing the vetting, and ultimately someone has to make a decision based on the report that they get before themselves.
And I hear you, understand what you're saying, and you keep mentioning that, no, it's role players. People are, but is there no policy? Is there no regulation? Is there no legislation? Is there no standing orders and good practice that should guide how this process is done, but also that should ensure that if the role player is not playing by those, then the role player can be held accountable?
Now, definitely there are rules and regulations in each and every organization. Like in this regard, the vetting process, it is regulated in a way that which is describing clearly how vetting should be done and what are the things that needs to be looked at. So the thing that we are saying is that between whatever that happens, between the administrative part and whatever the vetting, if there happen to be any elements that were not supposed to be eligible to come and be within the South African Police Services and they end up there, clearly, if that is found, someone has to be held accountable for that. But in terms of the rules to say there are regulations, that is clearly regulated, because a vetting process, it is a lawful type of process that is there in the public service, and even the Police Act clearly is clear in terms of how recruitment gets to be done and so on. Even the regulations, even what we call the employment regulations of the South African Police Services in this regard, if one has to single out the members of SAPS themselves. So it is quite, a process that is regulated. And if there happen to be cracks in between, we strongly believe as an organization to say those needs to be clearly identified and any loophole needs to be closed, because anyone who comes in, they have to be without reproach.
Yeah. You're talking about those who otherwise would pass the muster. They are clean, they've got no previous record and so on and so forth, and they get tempted in the system. An accountability structure itself, it's supposed to be proactive in its function. Is there a possibility of being able to identify those who are being tempted in the system?
Unfortunately, the job of being a police officer, in most cases, it is quite a difficult job. It is not an easy job because, the buck comes to yourself and you have to act. If there's any form of criminality, you have to investigate. You have to look at different type of things. If there's any criminal elements that are there, that is where one would use examples with the issues of drugs. If there's a big drug bust that any of the members they happen to have conducted and came across and really managed to secure. In most cases, the temptation that we are referring to, one could come and say, you know what, please just let us go and do this and this and that. Those are the temptations that we are talking about. Unfortunately, it's not something that can be premeditated to say this is something that is going to come. But what we rely on, it is the code of conduct that one has taken when they joined the South African Police Services. And even us, as an organization, we have taken a responsibility in our meetings from the National Congress that was held in Polokwane to say that we have taken revolution against corruption, revolution against drugs, against gender-based violence in our society. So we are also carrying that responsibility, playing our role to remind our members when we are with them in our meetings to say, we know temptations are there out there, but always remember the oath that we have taken. Remember what can happen to you. You may happen to lose your job if you can get caught on the wrong side of the law. Unfortunately, the proactive part, it is in relation to the role that is being played and also the oath that is there, and always reminding one another from time to time to say, remember why you came here, remember why you have to do what you are doing in this regard. That is the proactive measure in this regard.
Do you think the disciplinary code, which was, of course, negotiated with organized labor, should be revisited because there's a deterrent, maybe more stringent disciplinary code to be put in place?
It's good you're asking that question. As we speak, we have been in that process to really review the disciplinary code, which is disciplinary regulations of 2016 within the South African Police Services. And as labor and also the employer, we've been involved in that process and looking at issues like Regulation 9, which is called the expeditious process, where we have seen even members whom indeed, based on allegations that were unfounded, they happen to be dismissed out of the South African Police Services. And then when they go at arbitration, then they would come back because then an independent arbitrator would say that this was an unfair dismissal. So we are in the process. That is just one of the areas that one would touch on, which was quite problematic on our side, because it was being used to slaughter members whom in most cases you find that they happen to get to be reinstated when they go on arbitration, but then they would suffer in between when they have been dismissed, when they are waiting for the arbitration to be finalized in regards to that. But the code itself, it is under review as we speak. It will be going to the minister for him to promulgate it as regulations so that discipline within the South African Police Services can be prompt, and it can also, really be effective in this regard, as we have identified a number of areas within the code itself.
Lesiba, appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for coming on. Lesiba Tobakale, SAPS, or rather SA Police Union spokesperson.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Jones. Why Not TV? Please subscribe. Bye for now till we meet again next time. Subscribe, please. Don't forget to like and to comment. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jones, Why Not TV?
Goodbye till we meet again next time. Subscribe.